Hello and welcome everyone to Varsity Tutors Wildlife Creature Camp. I'm your co-host Brian, and if I'm smiling like the cat that ate the canary, that's because I think today's class is going to be the cat's meow or maybe the cat's pajamas. Either way, we've got an amazing class for you here where we're going to talk about our house cats. Our special guest Blue is here to exemplify house cats, and please have yours with you. Along with lions and tigers and cougars, oh my, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here, you're going to find out that your cat and those exotic jungle cats are a lot more similar than you think. And maybe the best part of all this is we've got one of the coolest cats in the world, Dr. Anton here to teach us all about these exotic cats and our house cats. You may know him from Animal Planet's Evan Goes Wild, and all kinds of great animal exploration. Now, a few things before we get started, and I hand it over to him. So some formatting things for you. One, do not let the cat get your tongue. We want to hear about you throughout tonight's class. So be vocal. You've got a whole chat panel and polling station to the right of the video here. Dr. Anton's going to ask you a lot of questions about your cat and what you know about cats. And in this class, curiosity does not kill the cat. So if you have questions throughout the class, please ask them throughout. And in the last 10 minutes or so, I'll take the best of your questions and interview Dr. Evan so we can learn all those questions and get that curiosity fulfilled. One last formatting thing, make sure you have a camera nearby, and I'd say your cat as well, because in about a half an hour, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to lean into the screen with your cat, take a feline photo or a selfie with Evan and potentially Blue if Blue's still there. And if you upload that to Instagram, we'll have the instructions on the way out. But if you tag Dr. Anton and tag Varsity Tutors, you'll be entered to win an autographed copy of his book, World Wild Vet, which is a great book, and autographed books are always exciting. So with that, I'm out of cat catchphrases, so I'm going to hand it over to your teacher for today, Dr. Evan Anton. Tell us what we need to know about cats.
Hey, I'm so excited. So many people are tuned in to learn about cats and how cool our house cats are. This is going to be a lot of fun. Again, my name is Dr. Evan Anton. I do a lot of work with cats and dogs, but I also work with wildlife around the world, including a lot of big cats like lions and jaguars and leopards and cheetahs, and even little house cats like my cat here. This is Blue, by the way. Blue's going to hang out with us for a little bit. So today's class catalog, we're going to be talking through a few different sections. Our first section is going to be called Copycats. And so we're going to be talking about how your cat, your house cat, if you have one, actually has a lot of parallels to our wildcats, including the king of the jungle here. In section 2, I want to cover some really neat category champions. So we're going to be talking about some superlatives, some of the most extreme wildcats that we can find in nature. And then in section 3, I want to talk a little bit more about how we can do better for our wildlife, including our wildcats and other wildlife around the world. All right, so I want to start off, because these are interactive sessions, I want to ask you guys, what is your cat's name? And what's the most amazing thing you've seen your cat do? We're going to take some questions here. All right, or some answers rather. We've got some fun answers coming in. Very good. Getting lots of names. We got some Lilies, some Milos, a Luna. We got another Blue. Blue, you got a friend out there. Same name as you. We got these cats doing some cool stuff. Some of these guys are quite some tricksters, very athletic cats, very high jumpers, jumping on top and off of the refrigerator. That's crazy. I love that. I love seeing when cats interact with other animals and other pets, like birds and dogs. Blue gets along pretty well with my dog, Henry. Very cool. Thank you guys for answering those questions. That's a lot of fun. Blue, are you done? Blue might be done for now. We'll see if we can get him later, but say bye, Blue. Okay. All right. All right, so we want to talk about why your cat is so fascinating and why it has so much in common with its wild counterparts. So cats have more of a passive domestication. You know, they weren't bred to do certain things like dogs and horses and cattle and all these other animals. Cats were, kind of just passively integrated into living with people. Up until more recently, there are certain cat breeds. But I want to start off by saying, cats are amazingly athletic. And their anatomy is a big part of why that is. Now, their tendons and ligaments are much stronger and more durable than most other mammals, and that affords them the ability to run fast, jump high, and do a lot of the crazy things that they do. And even the way their ligaments and tendons attach to their bones is very different than a lot of other animals. For example, a cat's shoulder doesn't really have your classic socket, ball and socket shoulder joint. It's kind of really attached by muscle. They have a collarbone too, but it's just a floating little collarbone. It's a remnant of a bone. It really doesn't serve a whole bunch of a purpose. When we talk about their flexibility, their spines can rotate 180 degrees. I mean, they can literally turn all the way backwards. Whereas you or I, we can do more like 90 degrees at best. Even their paws are incredible. When they jump off high surfaces, like for those cats that jump off the refrigerator, they can land on the ground and they're not spraining or breaking their ankle. They're incredible shock absorbers, and they can land and even silently. They're these little ninjas. And of course, we have to talk about. We've got some cool little demonstration piece here. Now, this skull, maybe you can guess what that is. It's a big cat. It's a leopard skull. So leopards are incredible predators. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But look at the size of these canines in this mouth. I mean, that's just a huge, huge tooth. And now I want you to compare that to this is a house cat skull. This is just like the same skull of your house cat. And look at, relative to the skull size, how incredibly large those canines are. Pretty fascinating to see. There's so much to talk about here. Cats, you got to think about it. They have so many weapons. They've got their teeth, they've got their claws, they're stealthy, they're incredibly intelligent, they're soft-footed, and so they can ambush, hunt, they can chase things. They are so good at what they do. It's really almost kind of scary. They're so equipped, evolutionarily speaking, with their adaptations to hunt and thrive in the wild, and even where places where they aren't native. We'll talk a little bit about that later. They can kill other wildlife too. So they're very impressive animals. All right, so we're talking a little bit about killing wildlife. So that brings me to our next interactive question I want to ask you guys. So like I said, cats are not as domesticated as you think. How many animals do you think feral cats and outdoor cats kill every day? Let you guys bring some answers in. You have some options: 170, 1,700, 17,000, 170,000, or 170 million every day. How many animals are killed by cats? A lot of answers coming in. Keep getting those answers. And what do you think? A, B, C, D, or E? All right, I'm going to tell you the answer is E. 170 million a day around the world. I mean, it's in the millions just in the US alone. And other countries like Australia has a really big problem. So this is because feral cats and our house cats that go outdoors, they're such good effective hunters and predators that they kill so much wildlife. And when they're in places that aren't familiar, where the native wildlife isn't familiar with having cats, for example, in Australia, there's some carnivorous marsupials that are native to Australia. There are some carnivorous reptiles like crocodiles and snakes and monitor lizards, but there is not a predator like a cat. And so when you have this really stealthy, smart, night vision, athletic, high jumping, fast running ambush predator like a cat, these animals they don't even know how to defend themselves. And so letting your cat outside and having feral cat populations in parts of the world can be extremely destructive towards our wildlife. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's a very real problem. All right. So one of the fun things about having a house cat is that you get to see how similar they are to our wild cats. If you've seen cats in the wild, or even in good quality zoos or in captivity at rescues or whatnot, the way they play with each other and hunt and play with toys is just like our house cats at home. They're so similar. So we've got actually Blue on the left. He's playing with a little pet fur seal that he loves, and he is attacking that thing and kicking it and grabbing it. And then we have a rhino on the right, and there's a rhino. I'm sorry, that's a leopard on the right. I was working at a place and also has rhinos right next door, but this leopard loves rhino dung. It's like catnip to him. And look at this leopard. He's going nuts for this rhino dung. And I just pulled that rhino dung from the rhino I was working with and threw it into the leopard space. And this leopard went nuts, just like how our cats do with catnip. And you can see how they're playing the same way. They rub their face all over it, they grab it, and they kick it, and they're just cats being cats, leopard to house cat. But it's pretty incredible to see. I mean, every way they play. I don't know if you played cats, if you played laser pointers, or if you have like a feather on a stick on a string or something like that, or you play the wild animal under the sheets game, like my cat Willie, my other cat, loves that game. If you're under a little blanket or a sheet and you tap your finger on the other side of it and he sees it lift up, he'll pounce. And it's just like a wild cat. He'll rear up his back end, his eyes dilate, and then it's a really fast, sudden pounce. And again, when it comes to hunting, you can imagine how effective they are as predators. All right, so for our next category, we're going to talk about category champions, because these wild cats around the world are pretty amazing. Okay, so my first question, you guys, what is the fastest land animal on the planet? The fastest terrestrial animal in the world. What is that? Some of you guys might know the answer to this, but what is the fastest? Get some answers coming in. All kinds of fast cats out there. All right, I'm going to give it to you. It's the cheetah. Cheetahs are phenomenal speed demons. Just insane. Now they can run up to 75, maybe even up to 80 miles an hour. They're native to Africa, and really mostly sub-Saharan Africa, but they can get up into the Sahara a little bit as well, in northern Africa. And they're not the biggest cat, but they're still extremely dangerous. They're very fast. Now they're the biggest cat than Purrs. I don't know if you knew that. They also are the only cat that does not retract its claws. So you might be able to see your cat at home. Sometimes its little muffins, its little paws are like this, and you don't see claws, and sometimes they're out. With cheetahs, they're always out. They're the only cat that does not retract its claws. So anytime I work with them or anything, you can see the claws right there. All right, which land mammal is the highest jumper in the world? Highest jumping land mammal. I'll give you a hint. It might be a cat. Get some answers coming in. Got some good ones. We've got some good jumpers. Yes, bobcats and caracals are good jumpers. But the answer to this question, the highest jumping mammal, is the cougar, the mountain lion. They can jump up in the air, upwards, 18 feet high. That's as tall as a giraffe, by the way, and the biggest giraffe. They can jump 40 feet long, like sideways, cross distance. They're running and they leap. They can cover 40 feet. Unbelievable jumpers, super athletic. You know, they're native to the New World. You know, we're going to find them in North and Central America, and very big animals. You know, sometimes people encounter them in the wild. Maybe you guys saw that footage of that guy that was on a hike or a bike ride or something, and he found a female mountain lion that's protecting her cubs. Mountain lions don't generally attack people. That's pretty rare for them to attack an adult or an average sized adult. Children, though, could potentially be a prey item. So you guys watch out when you're on your hikes if you live somewhere where there's mountain lions. And you can find them also very far north. You know, they're up in Canada and all the way up through and all over North America, really. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but cougars, mountain lions, they have 5 different common names that they go by. The cougar, the mountain lion, the puma, the catamount, and the panther. I don't know if you knew that, but all of those things are referring to the common name of this same animal. Cougar or mountain lion, I think, is the most commonly used name to describe them. I'll go on to our next question here. What is the loudest type of cat? The loudest cat in the world? I'll let you guys chime some answers in. We'll see what you guys say. Some pretty loud cats. I mean, I've seen house cats scream pretty loud. I'm not going to lie. They're not the loudest, but I've seen them scream pretty loud. Yeah, tigers have a good roar. I'm not going to lie. Let you guys keep bringing in some answers. I'm going to tell you right now, the loudest cat in the world is the lion. Lions can, you can hear them across the savannah. I've been to Africa many times, and you know, especially when I'm camping out there at night or something like that, you can hear them roaring from really miles away. Technically up to 5 miles away, which is pretty insane. So they live all over sub-Saharan Africa. The African lion is what we're referring to. Of course, there's Asiatic lions that live in India, other parts of Asia. They're a very neat cat because they're the only ones that really hunt in groups. They're very social cats. They're very social animals. They live in big prides, and you'll find, you know, when there's a group of males and don't have females or can't compete with the alpha males of a pride, they form what's called a coalition. A coalition is a group of bachelor males. And again, they all hunt together. So the bachelor males, they'll hunt together. When you're talking about a pride, the females end up doing a bit more of the hunting than the males, but they will all feed together. And I'm going to try to imitate a lion. I don't have the best lion call, but I've been working on it. And this is going to be like what a lion growl or roar sounds like. And you'll hear something like that when you're in the bush and in Africa and hearing these lions in the wild, or maybe even if you live near one in captivity, it's certainly possible. But if you're near that, if you're actually in close proximity to a lion, you can feel the sound reverberating through your chest. It's unbelievable how much sound and how powerful that sound is when it leaves their mouth. All right, what is the biggest type of cat in the world? Let's get some answers coming. We talked about some big ones. We talked about a lion. We talked about a cheetah. We talked a little bit about a leopard, playing with some rhino dung. But what is the largest cat in the whole world? All right, you get a lot of good answers here. A lot of you guys are getting this right. For those of you that said tiger, you are right. It is the tiger. Tiger is a massive cat, and they can weigh almost 700 pounds. The males in particular, they get absolutely massive. I call this guy my ginger tiger. He's our little special guest. Hi, Willie. So Willie's my other cat, and he's a bit more social and tolerant than Blue. I'll give you a kiss. He's our little tiger. Yeah, tigers are amazing. That's one of the big cats that I actually have not done a lot of work with. I worked a little bit with some big tigers in veterinary school, but I have not worked with them a ton after school. And so it's a species on my list that I'm dying to work with and to see in the wild. I think it'd be pretty cool. Again, they are loud. They're not as loud as a lion, but they are loud, and they can roar to a distance that you can hear up to 2 miles away. They're native to Asia and southern Russia and parts of Southeast Asia. There are tiger species, so they're pretty fascinating big cat. They're independent hunters. They hunt solo, and mom will take care of her cubs, but in general, these adults tend to live on their own and occupy large habitat ranges, and they'll fight over territory and things like that. And just like zebra stripes, just like our fingerprints, tiger stripes are never identical. No two tigers have the exact same stripes. So it's kind of a way of identifying them for biologists or ecologists or people out there in the field. If you do have a good image of a tiger's stripes through photograph or video, you will be able to distinguish him or her from other tigers. All right, so our next category, I want to talk about avoiding a catastrophe. And there are a few things that you guys can do that are very easy to help our wildlife, not just our wild cats, but our wildlife as well. And I'm talking about lions, jaguars, tigers, all these apex predators, all these crazy cool animals. There are really easy ways that we can help them survive and thrive in the wild. So the number one thing I want to talk about is to avoid places, that offer things like cub petting. Okay, cub petting, whether it's a lion cub or a tiger cub or something like that, you don't want to support these places, okay? They're not doing anything really to help our wildlife, number one. Number two, they're breeding a lot of these cats in captivity. And when these cats are once they get to be 3 months old, maybe it's 2 months legally, depending on state to state, 8 weeks, they can't legally be pet by the public. And so these animals don't have a home. So they get sold to some other zoo, or they get sold on the other side of the world, where they end up not having a good life either. So that's a very big problem. So you don't want to support that. I mean, when you want to see cats in captivity, there are good wildlife rescues, but then the easiest place, honestly, is going to a zoo, a good quality zoo, not a petting zoo, but a zoo that is AZA accredited, meaning the Association of Zoo and Aquariums accredits the zoo. American Humane has another good zoo accreditation. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we're making sure that we're taking really good care of our animals. We're investing ourselves in wildlife conservation of these animals, not just for our animals in the zoo, but where they're native to around the world. And they're doing a very good and very big and important thing for wildlife conservation. That's the good zoos. Okay, so make sure you distinguish between the two. You don't want to support bad zoos. And then the other big thing you can do, and this, any of you guys that have cats, the biggest thing you can do to help your native wildlife in your area is not let your cat go outside. Now, cats, like we talked about, they kill millions of wild animals every single day, tens to hundreds of millions. And so that's a huge concern. And in places where cats aren't native, it's an even bigger concern because those animals really don't know how to protect themselves. They're not used to having bobcats or other, wildcat species in their natural habitat. And so when a feral cat or a house cat comes, and they don't even know what to expect with that. When it comes to letting your cat outside, there are a lot of real risks that you're taking and your cat's taking going outside. Okay, every time you let your cat outside, they're exposed to getting in fights with other cats or other wildlife or dogs. They're exposed to traffic and cars. And I've seen, as a veterinarian, I can tell you, I've seen a lot of animals and a lot of cats get hit by cars, and it's not pretty. It often does not end well for these animals. And then, of course, there's a lot of diseases that cats have to worry about. Okay, there's parasitic diseases, viral diseases, bacterial diseases, all kinds of things they can catch from other cats in the neighborhood, and even potentially with some of these diseases from other animals. Even hunting other animals, they can get different kinds of parasites and protozoan diseases. So for every reason, please keep your pets, your cats, indoors only. You can give them a very good, enriching, fulfilling, exciting life indoors, and play with laser pointers and like that feather pointer I was talking about, play games, engage with them, let them practice their little hunting skills, but just not on our wildlife. That really goes a long way.
All right. Well, I agree. I think you are the coolest cat in the world. Just hearing some of your stories and seeing some of your videos lived up to the billing, and we've got plenty more to come. People have been asking a ton of questions, so we're going to make sure there's no cat pun for an interview, I don't think, but we'll make sure we get toward that. Hey, next up for everybody, we told everybody to have their cats nearby. Evans, I don't know if yours are out hunting right now, if they're nearby, but we'll make sure everybody gets an opportunity. Excellent.
Want to grab a cat?
Yeah. If you've got a cat nearby, let's do it. And
I'll be right back. I'm going to grab Willie.
Perfect. While he does that, let's make sure you guys know the rules for the selfie contest here. We're going to give everybody an opportunity. You can go track down or herd your cats, I guess, as the expression goes. Get your cats nearby. We're going to give everybody an opportunity. Lean into the screen. If you don't have a cat, that's fine too. We'll take a picture with Dr. Anton, and here's what to do with it. If you upload it to Instagram, tag Dr. Evan Anton, tag Varsity Tutors, you'll be entered to win. And I know Dr. Anton has one nearby to be able to hit you with a copy of his book that's kind of fresh off the presses right now, autograph copy there. So he'll be back with his cat. Make sure everybody has your cats there. Let me also mention, if you want to learn more about these exotic cats through the Wildlife Creature Camp, there are all kinds of safari cat classes and all those kind of things. So check us out at varsitytutors.com for those. But for right now, without further ado, let's give everybody an opportunity. Lean into the screen, and Evan, if you want to give them a countdown or something, let's get that.
Let's get going. 3, 2, 1. Let's start shooting. I don't know how long these guys are going to tolerate this. They're being very cooperative. And give a smile, you guys. Got some good kitties here. Willie, you done? All right, Willie's done. We got one kitty down. See how much we can get with Blue. It's a handsome guy, huh? You guys getting your shots? My handsome devil here. Say hi, Blue. Well, he's pushing on my face. Okay. All right, Blue's gone.
Nice photogenic cats, but I'm impressed by your cat herding ability. So again, everyone, if you didn't get your pictures, we've got all kinds of fun props in the background anyway. We're going to do some Q&A right now. Please get those questions coming in. You guys have asked some amazing ones, and you've got time for some of those. If you didn't get your picture, at any point you want to lean into the screen and get that picture, they all count. And again, on the way out at the end of class, we'll make sure we keep those instructions up for a while so everyone can enter to win. So, all right, we've got a bunch of questions for you. I think we covered a lot of ground with all these different types of cats. One of my favorites was, we talked about the biggest cats in the world, lions, and then of course tigers up to 680 pounds. You've probably seen some of these as an exotic animal vet. What is the biggest house cat?
The biggest house cat, not including like savanna cats and some of these hybrid cats that I've seen, have really just been obese cats. So I've met some cats that are 21 and 22 pounds. I've met cats that are 25 pounds, actually, and they're just a bit overweight. But the biggest breed that I can think of is the Maine Coon. Big, long hair cats. They're generally very sweet cats, actually. I really like working with them. Even at the vet hospital, they're a whole lot of fun. But that's a big cat. I mean, they're on average probably pushing like 20 pounds. They're really big.
Nice. So cats our house cats are a lot like wild cats there. And if they can pounce off the top of a refrigerator, I wouldn't want 20 pounds of ferocious cat jumping at me. So
imagine a tiger. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So now, a lot of questions about your experience, which I'm sure you get a lot. A lot of people, I'll give you a two-parter. One is, what's the most exotic cat you've ever worked on as a veterinarian, or what's your favorite, cat story? And then another one is, have you ever been in a scary situation with a wild cat, just kind of given all the stuff you do out in the wild?
Sure. Most exotic cat I've worked with, I mean, that might be up for opinion. I've worked with ocelots. I've worked with margays. I've worked with servals, cheetahs, leopards, jaguars, lions, bobcats, mountain lions. I mean, the list goes on. I'm sure there's a few more I'm just not thinking of at the moment. So whatever you think is the most exotic, I've worked with those. Now, in terms of dangerous moments with wild, Cats. No, I've never had anything like really in the wild where I was really concerned about my safety and well-being, being around, say, lions or something like that. If I was in Africa, obviously they can be extremely dangerous, but I've never been in a situation where I was concerned. But I will tell you, as a veterinarian, I did have a scary moment. I was working with the jaguar at a good zoo in Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. I think it was the Merida Zoo. And they had a jaguar that was having some health issues. And so we needed to sedate it and do a good, thorough physical exam. And we wanted to get some blood work and some urine from it. And we wanted to actually look at a couple other things too. And, when it comes to working with these animals, they have to be anesthetized or at least sedated pretty well before you can get your hands on them. They're just too dangerous, and it's too impossible and too dangerous for them and, of course, for us. And unfortunately, this cat started waking up a bit earlier than any of us had anticipated. I was working with another veterinarian that's full-time employed at the zoo, and I was doing my exam and looking in the mouth, and we were drawing some blood, and all of a sudden I start seeing some blinking and some head movement, and that's telling me, hey, this cat could wake up any second. So we had to bail on everything we were doing and then pull this cat into its enclosure, because sometimes these guys wake up fast. Often it's slow, but you never know. And I didn't want to find out the hard way being in the same space as this cat. So we put it in this temporary holding space next to its big open space where she lives. Luckily everything went fine. And then I thought, you know what? This cat's had some issues where it hasn't been eating enough lately. And so I had to get a look in its mouth. We can't, as a veterinarian, we can't look at an animal and assess its health, especially if eating's been a problem, and not look in the mouth. So I felt like I was doing myself and this cat a disservice not doing so. So because I saw it waking up slowly, I went ahead and went back in there and snuck in really quietly and started opening the lips, and the whole time thinking, oh my gosh, this could be the best or the worst decision I'm making here in Mexico. Luckily, everything went well, but that was a close call and some scary moments for sure.
Wow, that's I don't know if there's a Hippocratic oath for veterinarians. Like that's like taking your job seriously. I've got to look in the mouth, even though the mouth is. Let me ask you this: actually, the mouth is the most dangerous part of the cat, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Like the claws could be easily just as dangerous, because if she clawed me in, then she could pull me, and then the mouth can be the most destructive, but the claws can be just as dangerous. That's how That's how most cats catch their prey. It usually involves some claws to get them in. And then, of course, the bite is what does the real dirty work.
Right, so while we're on danger, we'll get back to how lovable cats can be in a second. While we're on danger, you referenced that video. I think a lot of people have seen it. That was maybe 2 weeks ago. Was that in Utah or Colorado? The cougar, and the guys backpedaling. What's for those of us who enjoy hiking and the outdoors, and we know cougars, mountain lions, it was actually, you were telling me about how fast and far they can jump, and there's a mountain lion that lives in the area kind of nearby where I live, so I've been freaked out for a couple weeks. What should someone do if you encounter a cougar, a mountain lion, out in the wild when you're hiking, in the Western US? What should you do and what should you not do?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when it comes to adults, mountain lions rarely going to attack an adult as like a prey item. And these animals aren't going to attack you unless they feel that you're a threat to them or their loved ones, like their cubs, like that mother cougar was doing, right? And so otherwise, they don't have any intention to risk themselves getting injured or anything like that when it's not going to feed them or provide them anything that they could actually, that actually is part of their survival. And so going and attacking people is not a real thing that they tend to do. And if you're an adult, it's probably not a problem. So like for example, with that case, that cat clearly wasn't predating. She was out in the open. She was yelling at the guy. And if she was trying to hunt that guy, she'd be stealth. She'd be up in a tree. She'd be behind some bushes. She'd be doing something to ambush him and then full-fledged chasing him. She wouldn't just be like screaming at him and fake charging him and doing that whole mock, I'm going to, get the heck out of here kind of thing. And so he did the right thing. She went on about it for longer than I would have expected. Because they went on for so long, I would have thought that she would have just been like, okay, he's not a threat. He's kind of moving on. But she didn't know that for sure. And that's why she kept talking. I mean, I think the best thing that he could have done is pretty much what he did, is just say, hey, don't mess with me kind of thing, and make himself as big as possible. And that's not something you do with every animal. Don't do that with a bear or other animals. But like with the cats, making himself big and telling her, hey, no, get away from me, and just walking back and keeping an eye on her is fine. But, don't do that with a hippo. Do not do that with a Cape buffalo. These animals will call your bluff, and they will, they'll have some fun with you, and it won't be fun for you. But yeah, that's really the best you can do. And the truth is, when you go in places where mountain lions are native, the odds of you seeing one are so slim because, again, you don't provide anything of use for them. And they don't want to risk themselves or do anything sketchy like try to attack you or get in a fight with you. And so they are very good at hiding, just like our house cats. And they're going to hide. And you're not likely to see one very easily.
Great advice. Thank you. That's yeah, I think that video, for those who haven't seen it, it's you can imagine what it would be like if a mountain lion was sort of coming at you. You don't need to have seen the video to see it, but good advice. I guess maybe you can live, but there's some solace in that if they wanted to attack you, you'd never see it coming. So if you see them, you're probably, going to be okay if you make yourself big and don't make any sudden movements.
Try to get away from them. Whatever's upsetting them and causing them to be, approaching you like that, just move away from them. Just back away. Keep an eye on them, but you should be fine.
Great. All right, now let's get into some happier thoughts with cats because they're even and even the exotic big ones are fun to see up close. You mentioned great zoos and safari type things and all that kind of thing. One of the most common questions we've had is, what is your favorite type of cat and why?
Oh gosh. I've done a lot of work in sub-Saharan Africa, and so I love working with their cats there. But I think the most impressive cats to me are leopards, and really I feel like I could say the same thing about jaguars because they fill that same niche in their natural environment. Jaguars, of course, native to the New World. They're native to the Americas. The leopards, different kinds of leopards, are found in Africa and Asia, right? But these animals, pound for pound, they're probably the strongest cat. They can carry an animal in their jaws and climb and scale up a complete vertical tree, and like nobody's business. Like if they've killed a big, say a jaguar a leopard. They hunt a lot of gazelle or impala really, and they'll take a whole impala up a tree. They're extremely effective hunters. They're extremely intelligent. They have amazing night vision. They're capable in all kinds of different environments. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have seen videos, for example, of jaguars leaping into the water to hunt a caiman or a crocodile, or leaping out of the water to hunt a caiman or crocodile on land. I mean, they can hunt in or from the trees, on the ground, and in water. And they're independent, solo. They do everything on their own, and they're very impressive wild animals.
Good answer. Yeah, that's I've seen. I think even before we talked, I remember we talked about leopards and went to go check out some of the videos you recommended. And
they're the ultimate predators.
They do some amazing things. So Thank you. Another really common one is, do you have any most memorable? And it may be hard to beat. The that was a leopard with the rhino dung, right? Do you have any other? What's your most memorable moment of seeing an exotic cat in the wild?
One of my favorite moments was actually it was at a wildlife rescue, and I was working just volunteering to help with some veterinary stuff in Peru at this wildlife rescue, and they had this margay that was a permanent inhabitant. It had some nutritional issues. It was captured at a young age from the wild, and then kept taken poor care of, and it wasn't a good candidate to release back into the wild, unfortunately, but they did provide it a good home there. And anyways, it was so fun because he's a permanent resident, he's not going back in the wild. It's okay for us to interact with him. If we were trying to rehabilitate and get it back in the wild, you want to really try to reduce or eliminate human interaction, but he's always going to be a resident there. And so getting to play with him was so fun, and it was like playing with a house cat, but then one that bit a little harder, was a little bit stronger, and claws were a bit sharper. And so my arms were just covered in scratches and bleeding everywhere, but I didn't even think about it or notice it because I was having so much fun just playing with this cat who was acting like my arm was a little prey item, and it was a total blast.
That's amazing. I like that. You kind of know, like once you know they're not going back into the wild, that kind of makes it. Is that and actually questions people have been asking too about, how do you find good zoos and what's, what are characteristics of a good zoo? Is that part of it, sort of finding animals that, they can't go to the wild, so it's more humane to keep them around?
There's a difference. So that where I was more of a wildlife rescue or like a rehab sanctuary. And so these are places where they focus really only on their native wildlife. They don't have cats, lions, for example, this Peruvian zoo, because they're in Peru, they're in South America, not Africa. And so they have all the kinds of different wildlife that would be existing in Peru and in that area. And they will, rescue injured or orphaned wildlife, rehabilitate them, and ideally get them back into the wild. So that's very different than a zoo, where zoos do a lot of their own captive breeding. They don't have to capture a lot of most different species from the wild anymore. They have really solid breeding programs. They really keep amazing tabs on their genetics and everything. And again, these are zoos that are AZA accredited, the Association of Zoo and Aquarium. And they're giving back to wildlife in a very big way. They not only they have educational programs at the zoo, where there's an opportunity for most people that most people aren't as lucky as me. They don't get to travel all over the world and get to see these animals in their natural habitats. If you want to see a gorilla, I get to go to the Congo or Rwanda. I'm very lucky, but a lot of people, to see them face to face and get, make eye contact with them, that kind of thing, would be at a good quality zoo. And so not only through those things, but they contribute heavily towards wildlife conservation in these areas where their animals they have are native to. And they fund research and they fund science and they send vets out. And I mean, a lot of the wildlife work I've done has been with veterinarians from zoos, because they're trying to, for example, I was just in the Congo about a year ago from now, Uganda. And I was doing wildlife giraffe translocation. And we had vets there from the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and they were getting, skin samples, fur samples, blood samples, and parasite samples from wild giraffe to learn more about their captive giraffe, and then use their captive giraffe to better manage wild giraffe. And so they play heavily into conserving wildlife, or really critically into conserving wildlife. So I am a huge advocate of good quality zoos that do just that.
All right, great answer, and thank you. I know a lot of people here care, and so thanks to everyone for all of your questions. Keep them coming. We got time for at least a couple more, and we've got a lot of folks who really care about animals here, who really wanted to make sure they're supporting zoos for the right reasons and all those kind of things. The other thing we're hearing from a lot of students here, and I think is kind of predictable. One, they're inspired by your story. I think we'll sell quite a few copies of World Wild Vet out of this one, including the one that the people win. I don't know if you have that nearby and want to hold it up at some point here. Let me put you full screen.
There we go. World Wild Vet. I'm so proud of this book and so excited about it. It was a lot of fun to write. It's like a travel memoir adventure. It's just of my work, basically working with animals and traveling to get to see my favorite animals around the world, from 15 years ago when I was 21 to now. And, I was a wildlife junkie, getting into trouble, just doing everything I could to see these animals. And now it's, I'm a veterinarian, and I get to work with other vets and conservationists and wildlife rescues around the world. And I get to share these stories in this book. So it's a really fun read, easy read, fun moments, exciting moments, happy moments, sad moments, funny moments, crazy travel, and a lot of messages of conservation regarding different species around the world of animals that I've worked with.
Excellent. And it's hot off the presses too, right? Was it released?
Yeah, October 27th. It is out. It's widely sold where books are sold. You can find it all over the place.
Excellent. Well, and based on that, or not based on that's probably the wrong thing to say, related to that, a lot of people are really inspired by your story. We got a lot of kids asking questions. How do they get a career like yours, right? You mentioned being inspired by animals as a kid and all those kind of things. So I'm going to ask this one in two parts. One, and you kind of covered a little bit of it just now. What, in addition to being a veterinarian, what are some other ways to find careers? What other career paths are out there?
Uh-oh. Are you online still, baby?
For people who really want to work with animals all
Hey,
right,
so
while we get that tech back, I think you're back. You're back. I was going to give everybody a reminder to check out more classes at varsitytutors.com. If you don't have the opportunity anytime soon to get out to a safari, we've got classes for that. But I think we're connections back and stable. So question to you, what are some other ways? So there's veterinarian, obviously. What are other careers out there that the people who want to make their passion for animals a career, what other things could they consider?
Sure. I mean, there are a lot of things in the veterinary field, but doesn't mean you have to become a veterinarian per se to work with animals. For example, I mean, I was a veterinary tech or a veterinary assistant or whatever you want to call it before I was, in vet school. And that's a career where you're hands-on, working in a very big way with animals, and you can work at vet hospitals, you can work with wildlife or all kinds of different animal-related situations. But yeah, the staff that veterinarians work with also work with a lot of animals, but they're not necessarily vets. Of course, if you love, working with wildlife, you want to get out in nature, there's a lot of ecologists and biologists do a lot of field work where they spend a lot of time working out in the field and around, some of their favorite wildlife or wildlife that they're, wanting to learn more about. And so that's obviously an option, but a lot of different sciences and a lot of different, ways to work with animals. There's trainers, there's behaviorists, there's there's people that, a lot of people volunteer at wildlife rescues. That's how I started getting my wildlife work was, before vet school even. I would just, contact rescues, or sometimes when they were hard to reach because Wi-Fi wasn't as common and email was, getting service was tough in certain countries, I would show up at the door and just say, hey, I love animals. I love working with wildlife. I've got a little bit of experience. Is there anything I can do to help? And, that's a great way. And you don't have to travel to do that. My very first wildlife experience was volunteering at the Greenwood Wildlife Rehabilitation Sanctuary in Colorado. And that was near where I went to undergrad at University of Colorado Boulder. And after my second year of undergrad, that whole summer, I was the squirrel and raccoon intern. So I was focusing primarily on squirrels and raccoons and working with Colorado's native wildlife. And that's where I got my, my feet wet in what wildlife rescue is all about. And, it's just putting the time in and being proactive and reaching out to, people or places that you would like to work with and going from there.
That's great. Thank you. And I know we've got a class coming up probably next month, I think, that will be all about, how to become a veterinarian and the path you took. So won't give too much of it away here, but if you are interested, a lot of the questions people have been asking about how to be, like Dr. Anton here, we'll do an entire class specifically on that. Maybe to end on, and you've given some good advice. Hopefully I'm not asking you to double up, but what would be maybe your one piece of advice for someone who's young, who's elementary school, middle school, they're not ready to be on a veterinarian path just yet, but they want to get there. What's your advice for someone who loves animals and wants to make sure that, they're helping animals and that they get to, interact with animals as much as possible? We'll kind of end on this. What's one piece of advice for young animal lovers out there that are, on their path to maybe someday being a World Wild Vet?
Right. I mean, there's only so much you can legally do because a lot of places can't have volunteers and let people do hands-on if they're under like 16 years old, give or take, depending on the city or the state. But you just expose yourself and be proactive and just learn as much as you can about them. You'll be ahead of the curve, and the more you learn, the stronger you'll be, and the more ready you'll be when you can start getting your hands on animals, and that's a big part of it. And then I just have to throw this in there too, because this is so important. And it's good to start these practices at a younger age. And that is, put your time in when it comes to school. Take school seriously because, your grades don't matter as much in elementary school when you're applying for college and vet school. I don't think they're going back to what you guys are doing now. But as you get into middle school and really in high school especially, they're going to be looking at those grades. That plays such a big role in terms of where you can go to school because some of these programs are very competitive. And when I applied to vet school, they only let in 10% of applicants. So I had to have really good grades on top of other things. And we'll talk more about that later. But, stay in school and be proactive. Learn as much as you can.
I love that advice. And we'll talk much more about it in about a month when we do that class about how proactive you were. I think one thing that everyone needs to hear is, if you're persistent and you ask and you're willing to volunteer, people are willing to give their time to people who demonstrate that passion. So I thought that was really good. And thank you for the plug for school. This is why science classes matter. Dr. Anton has lived this exotic life. You can read all about it. Check out, on Evan Goes Wild on Animal Planet and all those kind of things. It's an exotic life and really exciting, but it really comes down to he put in his time in science classes and learned how to heal all kinds of different animals. So we'll hear about that in the next class. Dr. Anton, huge thank you. This has been a ton of fun. I've learned a lot. I think everyone has, and done such an inspirational story. So any parting thoughts before we turn everybody loose?
We talked about such good topics, you guys. I think my biggest, if I was going to just ask anything of you, it would be to just keep your cats indoors. It really does save so much wildlife, and it saves so many cats from having to come see me at the vet hospital. So if you could do that, that really does a lot for all of our animals. Thank you so much for tuning in, though. This is a ton of fun for me. Varsity Tutors, thank you guys for having me. I have a blast with this stuff. I could talk about cats and wildlife and our pets anytime.
Perfect. Well, we'll see you again in a month for the veterinary class. And even if you're young, the path starts early. So come check us out then. Huge thanks to Dr. Anton for all of your time. We're going to put those instructions for the selfie contest up on the way out. And just a reminder, if this kind of whet your appetite for more learning about exotic cats and all those kind of things, plenty of more classes to be had in the wildlife creature camp, including some great safari cat type classes. So huge thanks, Dr. Anton. We'll put up those instructions here so everyone knows how to win that contest. You got about a week to 10 days to get those pictures up, and we'll see everybody soon. So thank you, everybody.